I feel as though I can pretty confidently say with little to no pushback that NBA players, the NBA itself, and prospective players that are coming from all over the world to try out and become a part of the NBA, this sport and the players that make up this sport are developing their skills and are becoming more polished at such a rapid rate that it's getting pretty hard to control. And when I say that this is a problem, I don't mean, oh no, foreign players can't come in and invade the NBA. Woe is me. We have way too many entertaining and athletic and skilled players to watch. This is terrible. It's not what I mean at all. I just think that in some ways it's getting a little bit unfair because the NBA still has not expanded yet. And I know that these things kind of they take years to materialize and years to even actually plan and get all the logistics down for. But the NBA needs expansion right now. There's no time to wait a beat on this because with the amount of polished players that can do everything that are coming into the NBA year after year, there's going to be no place for a lot of veteran guys that are contributing to winning teams right now. There's just going to be no place for them, and guys are more and more guys are going to be sitting in free agency when they're not really supposed to be. And this is going to take away all-star selections from several incredibly skilled guys that are at the top of the top with regard to what they do. All right, before we continue, my name is Dean Simon and I love NBA basketball. If you want to continue to hear me talk about hoops from a positive perspective and just talk about how I love every player in the NBA, and though they're not free of criticism, please consider subscribing and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. I am setting a goal to have at least like 500 subscribers by the end of the month, so, or not the end of the month, the end of the year, and I would really appreciate it if you could become one of those subscribers and join me on this journey. All right, so when I say that there's going to be guys that are left kind of in free agency just toiling, we can see it a little bit right now with, let's say, guys like Russell Westbrook, who, though he had a great year for the Denver Nuggets in a year where he was their sixth man consistently, he put up, I want to say, like 13 and 6, which are rotational numbers and great numbers for your sixth man. Maybe this is also factoring in his age, but he is still toiling away in free agency, and a team has refused, or no teams have picked up the phone and contacted Russ in an effort to sign him, other than the Sacramento Kings, who that was the rumored team that he would be going to for a long time, but I feel like nothing has materialized in the last 2 weeks to a month. So that possibility is already out of the window. So Russ, again, who is an incredibly talented player, even still to this day, can offer so many different things to a competitive team. And he played a massive part in the Nuggets almost making the Western Conference Finals this year and taking down the eventual champion Thunder. He's left out in the free agency market and nothing has really materialized. And he's not the only victim of this. There are also guys like Trey Lyles, where you could have seen a guy like Trey Lyles, who's been on the Sacramento Kings the past couple of years, putting up decent numbers, maybe around like 9 points a game, and if there's a year where he's shooting near 40% from three, he could be a valuable part of a contending team. But he signed an overseas deal to leave the NBA after 10 years. And I feel like that was in part because all these new guys are coming in, and especially the Sacramento Kings drafting some new guys, and there just wasn't really room for him on anyone else's bench. So Trey Lyles just decided to skip town and go overseas. And you just wouldn't see something like that happening a decade ago. You wouldn't see a guy that was as skilled as Trey Lyles, not saying that he's a world beater or anything, but Trey Lyles could play and he could contribute to a winning team. He could contribute to a team like the Denver Nuggets or the Houston Rockets as one of their end of the bench guys. I feel like that's without a doubt. But guys like him are receiving less and less opportunities because there are so many different players around the world that are constantly coming into this league and taking up all the spots. And the thing about it is, it's not their fault. It's just that new spots have not been opened up. You have these positions, 15 spots on each team for all 30 teams, and they're becoming more and more and more competitive to get, as though they weren't already so competitive that you would have 0.0000000 onward percent of a chance to make an NBA roster. It's just getting even harder. And it kind of pains me to see guys like Russ sitting in free agency, guys like Trey Lyles leave the league. And also, who knows, maybe guys like Malcolm Brogdon, even though he's had injury misfortune, there's a possibility that no teams really feel that it's necessary to pick up the phone and contact him, even though he can still clearly play. And again, could do with age, could do with injury, but he could still contribute to a winning team. And I feel like that's, again, without a doubt. But a lot of this has to do with the scoring boom in recent years, and especially in this past decade. And if we go back specifically to 2014-15, I'm just going to get this up so I make sure that I'm correct with this. There were, if you could guess how many players averaged 20 plus points per game a decade ago in 2014-15, the answer is 15. 15 players averaged 20 points a game or more. And if you could guess how many of those players were internationally born, technically one, and it's Kyrie Irving. Of the 15 highest scoring players in the NBA, only one, technically, with Kyrie Irving being born in Australia and growing up in New Jersey, he was the sole player who averaged 21.7 points to not be born in the United States. And then if you fast forward to 2024-25, that number from 15 skyrockets to 34. 34 guys average 20 points a game this past season. And that's not even the highest mark. In 22-23, that mark was at 43 guys that averaged 20 a game. Am I the only one that finds that ridiculous? And there's not much that can be done about players developing and the scoring boom and things like that. But it's just so insane to watch. And about the international players thing, there were technically one player of the 15 that were internationally born. The top three scorers in the NBA this past year were all foreign born players. And of course, the past 6 or 7 MVPs were all foreign born players. So it's just really astounding when you think of the totality of how many international stars are coming in to compete at an NBA level and eventually become stars. And the craziest thing is that I'm not even really referring to guys that are at the top 1% of the NBA, the scoring leaders in the NBA that are just internationally born players that are dominating. It's everybody. It's rotational players, players up and down the lineup across the board are coming from everywhere, and we still have the same number of spots. And where this really bugs me is with regard to the All-Star game, because even especially with the latest rendition of the All-Star game that Adam Silver's trying to push across, where it's 3 teams, 8 players to each team, and it's 2 USA teams and a world team, that's creating even less spots, I believe, for guys that deserve All-Star spots. And we can really see where this is driving me crazy when you look at guys that missed out on the All Star game this past season. And one of those guys, which I will pull up again because I can't believe that it's real to this day, was Devin Booker. Devin Booker missed the All Star game, averaging 25.6 points, 7.1 assists, a career high, 4.1 rebounds, zero point 0.9 steals, 46, 33, 89 splits. So it's not the most efficient season for Devin Booker, but it's Devin Booker. He should be a consensus all star year in and year out. There shouldn't have even been a chance, a sliver of a chance, that Devin Booker would miss out on the All Star game, but it just so happened that he did. Also, a guy like Kyrie Irving, who I believe he eventually got in as an injury replacement. He did not originally, at least to my knowledge, I don't believe he originally made the All Star game, or at least there was a chance that he wasn't going to, averaging 25 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. The stat boom in the NBA is just, it's making it so that these guys, they just cannot get in. The benchmark now, the benchmark used to be that if you averaged maybe 19 points a game on good efficiency and your team was decently competitive, there's a good chance you were an all-star. But nowadays, 19 points a game, that relatively does nothing. And this can be seen with Domantas Sabonis, who is the last of the couple of guys that I saw that didn't make the All-Star game this past year that made me sick to my stomach. A guy who has led the league in rebounding the past 3 seasons running, and not only has he done that, but he's increased his total of rebounds, or his average of rebounds, each year of those past 3 years. In 23, it was 12.3 boards. He got up to 13.7 the next year, and 13.9 this past year, averaged 19 points, basically 14 rebounds, 6 assists on 59, 42, 75 splits, and he did not make the All-Star game. I can't be the only one that's mystified by this, but the answer is in plain sight. It's just that there are not enough spots to keep up with the talent that these guys are developing, and the number of internationally born players that are coming in and completely wrecking the league. And it's just absolutely unbelievable that a guy like Domantas Sabonis can't make the All-Star game. So that's really the crux of it's the point of the video, is that we need expansion, and we need expansion specifically in the All-Star game, because we can't expect guys like Domantas Sabonis to come out here and average 19, 14, and 6 and not even get in as a reserve, like an end of the line reserve, when he was shooting 42%. It just makes no sense to me. But that's my big thing. Of all of this, if we're gonna fix one thing about international born players coming in and continuing to dominate, and just an influx of talent all over the league, that there's more and more guys than ever that can do everything, including shooting the ball and developing as playmakers and just being incredible athletes. There's no way that we've been able to keep up with it. We need to expand the roster spots for the All-Star game, or at least we need to make it so that there's more of a chance for players to be recognized. But maybe in the adverse, maybe this makes players even more competitive than they already are with regard to notching their incentives for their contracts, with being named an all-star, with being named an all NBA player, because it's harder than ever to land one of those accomplishments. And maybe that'll make guys think, man, I really, really have to level up my game to even be considered for any of these kinds of awards or adjudications. Maybe it's time that I go into GOAT mode and average 28 points a game. But on the adverse of the adverse, that can lead to a little bit of dissension in the locker room, because there's going to be players that are playing and performing purely to gain that kind of contract incentive by being named an all-star and putting up a certain number of points and racking up a certain number of whatever. There are a lot of different ways that this can go, but one thing that I feel is a must: increase the spots for the all-star game. That's number one. And maybe even no, you know what? The G League exists. There's places for players to go when they can't be on the NBA roster. So that's where I'm going to end this here. Thank you very much for watching. If you got to this point, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think down below, and also consider subscribing. I would love for you to join in on this movement that we're creating, where I just talk about basketball. Okay, I will see you guys in the next one.